Welcome to Manly Monday Live. Oh, man, it's another Monday night. And what's up, Fallible Nation? Man, I miss you guys. I really do. I love Mondays because I love to hang out with you guys and just get a chance to chat with you and see what's going on. I love it when you interact. So, hey, jump in the conversation. Let us know you're here, guys. Shout out. If you were on Facebook and this is your first time, you may have to click a little thing. Well, it's not a little thing. You may have to go to streamyard.com/Facebook, and that way you can be seen if you want to be seen. If you don't care if your little icon like this shows up, then that's fine. We don't have to have your name, man. But hey, guys, if you want to be seen and you're on Facebook and you're not seeing yourself, then be sure and jump over there and get that. I see Dave's in the house. What's up, Wolfman, bro? You know, brother, I got to admit, I'm heavily influenced. I grew up listening to Wolfman Jack. And man, I love that intro on his show. And I may not even actually plan that, but that's kind of what's just happened with me. Now, guys, jump in. Let us know you're here. Say what's up. Join the conversation. It makes a better show. And guys, let's get into the point of the show, right? Are you really where you want to be in life? Do you feel stuck in a rut? I remember by the end of 8th grade, I was so angry all the time. I had gotten into that rut, right? I was the fat kid. It didn't matter that I had actually dropped a lot of weight and grown a foot in the past 2 years. I was always that fat kid that started as the new kid in school there several years before. And I couldn't escape it. And it was my identity, and I was becoming aggressive and struggling with my self-esteem, and I was angry all the time, and life was just not what I dreamt of it even being or what I thought was possible. It wasn't a good time. Sometimes we need that second act, a drastic change in the trajectory of our lives. You may not even need such a drastic adjustment. Hopefully you don't need that big of adjustment. Hopefully you just need a small adjustment if you're feeling stuck in a rut, and that will do the trick. Sometimes that's enough, and I hope that's what's going on with you. Either way, on today's episode of Manly Monday, we're going to help you with that. So the question is, are you ready to make the changes and become the person that you really want to become? Man, I hope so. So let's get into it. Now, guys, as we go through the night, like I said, jump in the comments, let us know you're here. That always helps. And no matter what platform you're on, whether you're on Facebook or whether you're down on YouTube, wherever you are joining us from, there's a link on the video below you in the description that has a link in it that if you want to ask a question live on air during the Q&A, and we already have one question queued up for tonight, if you want to join us to ask your question, that just sends me a form, so we're not broadcasting your information, and I can send you a link, and you can jump in the conversation there. If you want to ask a question and you don't really want to be on air, but you don't want to put it in the comments because you're feeling a little uncomfortable with the question, you can also put that question there. If you're okay with sharing your question with the whole crowd, then you can put it in the comments, put a little QQ in front of it. That helps Sarah, my lovely wife who does the engineering in the background, minus the camera tonight because I'm controlling that because I just love to play with cameras. And hey, I got like 3 angles tonight, so I'm feeling myself tonight. If I get too stupid with it, guys, just let me know in the comments and I'll back off. But put your QQ in there. That will help Sarah see it, and she'll make sure that I see it. And that way you can be a part of this conversation because I love talking to you guys and hearing your questions and making sure we're answering those. And I see Andrew's jumping in. Yo, Andrew, Manly Monday, right? Always fantastic to hear from you. Man, thank you so much. That's an honor. I am so grateful when you guys take the time to share with me on Mondays because I know how much value there is in your time, guys. As a person who lives by his schedule, I value your time. And so without further ado, I guess we should get into it, right? Everyone loves a good story. I mean, our world thrives on stories. Look at the way we entertain ourselves, right? We got movies, we got TV, we got books, podcasts. Even social media is digging into the concept of stories, right? I mean, they went as far as to call them stories, right? Even social media has figured out the power of stories and is trying to integrate that in. Nothing moves us like a great story. It can motivate you. It can inspire you. It can touch your heart. It can make you change your outlook on the world in general. It can make you cry, right? That's incredible. And just, there's so much power in a story. And it doesn't have to be like, that's the cool thing about stories. Stories are so incredibly powerful that you don't even have to know the people involved with the story for it to deeply move you. Hey, I see Brian's jumping on. Brian, thanks for jumping on tonight, man. Welcome to the Fallible Nation. I met Brian earlier. We do some business with the same companies. And so I'm excited that you're here, brother. Thanks for jumping on tonight and being a part of tonight's show. I hope you enjoy it and take part in it. Every story has multiple parts. It makes it really functional, right? If it was just a straight story, it'd be boring. So you got to have a little up and down, right? So you got an introduction, and then generally there's a conflict and a resolution. Now that can be done in an act 1, act 2, act 3, or that can be done in 2 acts generally. Generally the act is defined somewhere in the world of theater. I actually passed up a chance to go to Juilliard, guys, so I do know a little bit about theater. Usually the act is separated at the turning point for the main character. That's where it's set at. So a lot of them are 2-act plays, and you just don't even realize it's only 2 acts, because there's the main character and the events in his life before, and then there's whatever the big conflict is or whatever the big change point is. And then there's act 2, right? Now, maybe you're where you want to be, and that's really cool. But maybe you're not. The good news is that how you get to act 2 is the conflict. It's okay that there's conflict. It's okay that there's difficulties and trouble, because you can't get to act 2 without the changes that take place because of that conflict. The story changes, the pace changes, the characters change, the settings change. It's all in act 2, and it's all because of conflict. So don't be afraid of it. It's okay. It's just part of how it is. But how do we make act 2 better? Right? Maybe you're at that point in your life where you need to jump in and just make some kind of change. And it might be a little change, it might be a big change, but it was time for a change, or maybe it is time for a change. Maybe you've been through this process. If you have, hey, jump in the comments and tell us about it as you go. Become part of the conversation, because that's what we do here. We take care of each other. We help each other out. Maybe it's time for you to hit that change. Maybe you're just at a wall and it's time. Well, how do we make act 2 better? The simple solution is we write the characters that we want to be. It's time to write your story and for you to take charge of that story. Andrew's saying, stage crew, tell me it was stage, Brent. Yes, I actually passed up a chance to get my foot in the door and go to Juilliard for stage design. That was actually what I did. Brian says, I think sometimes we get too comfortable with our current world and are afraid to accept the challenge that allows us to step into the second act. I think you absolutely nailed that, Brian. I think sometimes we just get jammed up and focused on what's going on, and we're afraid of those next steps. And so this is how it works. I'm going to walk you guys through this. I promise it's really an easy process. You're going to be like, wow, that's all you got for us, Talon. I'm not trying to simplify it. It actually is this simple. And I think you guys are going to dig this. So the first thing I want to share with you, the first step is you have to decide what story you want to live in, right? Do you want to live in a comedy, an epic, a rom-com? Do you want to be like that Overcomer movie? My wife really loves those. Do you want to be in a thriller? Hopefully not. I've seen enough of those. They don't always end well. What do you want the story of your life to resemble? How do you visualize your life will have, I screwed that up. How you visualize your life will have far-reaching implications as you lay out the rest of your story. So you really got to decide, what story do you want to live? Now, I get it. Life is not a movie, but there's power in stories. Your life is a story. It's just a question of whether you're the one telling it or not. That's one of the reasons we identify with stories, is our lives are stories. Now, a lot of people feel out of control with their life. So they turn to imaginary worlds. This is actually one of the really big mental draws for guys and video games. I did a whole conversation on this as a guest on a podcast, so I won't get into that, but this is actually one of the biggest lures of why video games and like role-playing games are so powerfully attractive to men is we desperately seek to have certain things checked off, right? We want to conquer, we want to rule in our life, we want to feel powerful because we need to feel respected. We need to feel like we're strong, we're providing, we're doing the things that we're biologically programmed to do. And so we turn to somewhere where we can do that, where we can accomplish, because we don't always feel like we're accomplishing in our life. So to be specific, what kind of story do you want to tell? You really need to be specific about what you want that story to look like. Now, if you want to live in stories like Silence of the Lambs or Kiss the Girls, go see my friend Dr. Heim. Those are probably not good options. Let's not do those. Okay. Those are not the way we want to go. Now, guys, I appreciate your patience, but we got to pay the bills. So let me kick you over to our friends at GhostBed. How well do you sleep at night? Do you toss and turn and wake up more tired than when you went to bed? Sleep is commonly one of the critical elements people fall short on in their life. The quality of sleep you get directly affects your ability to control your weight, your ability to add muscle, your stress levels, and your everyday job and life performance. If you're ready to move to the next level, then sleep has to be part of the plan. Check out our friends at ghostbed.com if you're ready to get your best sleep. I love my ghost bed. I've been sleeping on one for a couple of years and has made a huge difference in how I sleep. Hit ghostbed.com and use the code TheFallibleMan30 to get 30% off your order and start getting better night's sleep tomorrow. Now, let's go on to the show. All right, guys, I appreciate the understanding. GhostBed is our new sponsor. I wanted to announce that, I think, a week ago, and we hadn't quite closed the deal. And so I wanted to share that with you guys, but I hadn't been able to, or did I do it a week? I might have done it a week ago. Maybe the weeks are starting to blend together, guys. So thanks for understanding that. Hopefully they'll keep the show on the air a little bit longer with our relationship with them. And guys, I really do sleep on a ghost bed. That's that. You go down to my bedroom, that's what's there. I wouldn't share something with you guys I didn't think was actually that valuable. So I appreciate your understanding. Andrew points out, be careful what metaphor. It looks nervously at the post-apocalyptic theme. You're right. That's right up there with if you're imagining your story somewhere around the Silence of the Lambs, let's not do that. Just that's a bad idea. Guys, step number 2, okay? After you decide what story you want to be a part of, is what's your archetype? Now, Sarah doesn't like it when I use this word because it's a big fancy word, and she loves big fancy words, but she thinks they get misused most of the time. So if I'm using it wrong, shout it out in the comments. Let me know. Hey, it's love. It's okay. I don't care. Guys, how do you identify in your story? What values do you seek? Let me show you how normal this is, right? Like I said, my wife gives me a hard time about this, but this is so prevalent that there are actual grids for this. So Sarah, hit me with that first overlay. This is your standard archetype wheel. This is available. I'm going to move my mic over here because I put them on that side of the screen. This is your standard archetype wheel. We actually see this. If you Google search archetypes, you're going to find this, but it's more prevalent than that. Hit that next one. This is a character-driven archetype, and there are commonly considered 12 different types of characters in stories, in major stories. And you can see here, this is a great one. I love this. I invite you to come back and pause the show. This has all of your favorite movies. It's got Star Wars, Firefly, Lord of the Rings, and Harry Potter. You can't go wrong. And you can identify, so you can get an idea of where you want to be. What kind of person do you want to be in the storyline? Babe, hit that next one for me. This is actually so prevalent that this is how brands identify themselves. I don't know how well you guys can see this on the screen. My screen's really little because I only have one and I have 20 billion windows open on it. So right now the picture's this big for me, but I hope you guys can see that clearly because brands actually use this structure to identify their branding and their message. So this is actually really prevalent. You see it all around you and it's a normal part of your life. So I want you to think about this. Let's go ahead and get rid of that overlay, hon. What is your archetype. How do you want to be viewed? How do you want to be remembered? How do you want to interact? What kind of character fits with your dreams, with how you see yourself, how you want others to see you, how you want to be known? What type of character is this that you want to play? Andrew says, everyone is the hero of their own story. The question is if you're right. That's absolutely true. And one of my favorite quotes is, not only is everyone the hero of their own story, but you are the villain. No matter how good you are in someone's story, you're the villain. And this is entirely true. You think about the things you've done in your life. We think about the things that we've made, right? None of us are perfect. This is the fallible man. Hey, we can own that here, right? Hands up if you're perfect, because if you got your hands up, you're lying and you could just leave, right? We don't pretend here. We know none of us are perfect. And in everyone's life, at some point, they were the villain in that story. And that's important to understand, because you didn't see yourself as a villain. Someone else did. So when you're deciding what archetype and what kind of movie this is, what kind of story this is for your life, remember, how do you want to be perceived? How do you want other people to take away from their interactions with you? Number 3, what role do you want to play? Now, I'll tell you, this is a trick question, guys. Let me be upfront. I'm not trying to be clever or anything, because we all know that's not going to happen. But do you want to be the leading role or a supporting character? Now, this shouldn't be a trick question, and that's not really, really a question, guys. Some people seem content to be the supporting character in their own lives. The problem is the supporting character has no say. They're not in charge. They're not steering the boat. Let's see how many metaphors I can mix up tonight. And the way you live your best life is if you are driving, okay? If you're steering the boat, that's how you get to your best life. So you want to be the main character. Now, even worse, you can become a non-essential part of your own story. If all these things, if you don't line up what kind of story you want it to be, what kind of archetype you want to be, and what role you want to be in this next step, you can become completely non-essential to your own life. Now, if you don't believe me, check out Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? It's considered a masterpiece, and I love Raiders. It was one of my dad's favorite movies, Raiders of the Lost Ark. He liked the third one better, but Indiana's role was pointless. He didn't even have to be there for the story to work out the way it did. In fact, if he hadn't showed up at all, the result would have been the same. Epic movie, right? Great character. We all love Indiana Jones, at least if you're over the age of 30. Maybe if you're younger than that, all you saw was Crystal Skull. I'm sorry. I don't know what that crap was, but stick with the original 3. Great character, wrong role, right? That wasn't his story. That was just a story he happened to be tripping through and screwing up the whole way. Guys, you have to be careful about aligning these things. Now, Brian says, crazy timing of the archetype thing. This was a big part of my most recent episode of my podcast too. Coincidence? Man, I don't believe in coincidences. Sometimes it's amazing how things just line up, right? There's a reason you're here. And because this was obviously something that struck a chord as you were doing your podcast. Amazing how this works. Now, guys, I got to throw one more out in here. And hey, it's because our Phoenix is coming up and registration is open, guys. The Phoenix Men's Conference, Man on a Mission, is open. Early bird tickets are out there. And you too can join us either live in person or virtually, wherever that fits in your schedule. That's February 10th and 11th, 2023, guys. And tickets are on sale. And we throw an incredible show, whether it's the virtual event, which we're actually investing more into this year, or the live event. Either way, you're going to come away with an incredible experience. I promise you, people are still talking about the last event. We want to help you as you seek your purpose. And it's not going to be the same as mine. It's not going to be the same as your best friends. You have a purpose that's just you. And it's important that you get there. And we want to help equip you and encourage you as you seek your purpose, because you will find that your life falls in a much deeper alignment and better when you're actively seeking your purpose. So check out the Phoenix Conference, guys. Go to www.thefallibleman.com/thephoenix to go to the website and sign up, guys. Get your tickets now before prices go up. Now, number 4, so much advertising. I'm sorry. I really am. Number 4, reverse engineer your character. Okay. We already figured out what kind of story we want to tell or live in, right? We figured out what kind of story it is. We dug into what our archetype is. And that's important, right? We got to build this in pieces for it to work. And as we head into Act 2, we got to know and step into being the prime role. If you've taken a secondary role in your life, man, I'm sorry, that is rough. It's time to step out. You are your own person, and you need to be the hero of your own story. You need to be the primary character that the story evolves around you so you can live your best life. And to do that, okay, we have to start reverse engineering the character that we're envisioning. Because by this point, you put together an idea of what kind of story it is, what kind of character you want it to be, what role you're going to play. So now you actually already have a clear picture forming in your brain of what that character looks like. It may not be Indiana Jones. It may not be Sly Stallone, but hey, they're actors. That's okay. This is the fun part of how this works. Who is this person you're envisioning in this head? Who is this individual that is the hero of their own story in this amazing story that you've decided to tell yourself? What does he or she eat? How do they take care of their health? Do they exercise or not? Do they laze around? What do they do for work? What do they wear? How do they talk? What are they like when you sit down with them? What traits do they possess that brings this to mind, that makes you want to be this person? How do they react when they encounter obstacles and other things? How do they react when they encounter people? Start answering all the who's, what's, where's, when's, why's, and start building your story. Do what that person you envisioned would do. That, guys, it's really that simple. I told you, you'd be like, wow, I wasted my time listening to this. I could have told you that. Well, it's that simple. I don't know how I can make things more complicated. That seems to be the pace on YouTube, is everybody wants to make things complicated, but it's not. Break down who that person is and start stepping into that person's life. Start becoming that person's life. Set smart goals. If you see things in there that are lacking in your life, start setting smart goals, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely goals to start developing those habits, those abilities, those traits, and start moving your life into alignment with this story that you're creating. You know, the old saying, fake it till you make it, isn't entirely far off. Sometimes you just have to start being the person you envision, being that hero in your life, and then you will actually start being that person because you're already acting like them anyways. The old joke of like, I'm not an insurance salesman, but I play one on TV. Well, that's what it is. Maybe I'd have to poll the audience, but I think most of you guys are old enough to remember that joke. Andrew says, Charles Horton Cooley, about self-identity. I'm not who you think I am. I'm not who I think I am. I am who I think you think I am. You need to make an effort to self-define, or else risk who you are becoming what others want instead of what you need and want. That is a great quote. That is a mouthful. It amazes me that you can rattle off things like that sometimes, Andrew. Wow, that would have taken me a couple days to come up with. I guarantee it. But thank you for sharing. That is incredibly, if you can follow it, very accurate, right? Often we fall into that trap of becoming what other people think we are, or who other people think we should be. Your story starts here when you start writing it, guys. When you decide to take those steps and start becoming the hero of your own story and becoming the person you envision, that's when you get to live the life that you've always wanted to live. And that will be incredible. Now, guys, I hope that helps. Go back and watch it again if you need to. Share it with somebody. If you got something out of it, do me a favor. Give me a thumbs up on whatever platform you are on and share this with your friends. If you're watching this on the replay, hey, hit the comment section because we read the comments and I reply to all of them, guys. Now, I'm excited because we do have a Q&A tonight. So if you have questions, you can throw a QQ in there and I will check the mailbag as well. But we already have one question in the queue, so let's get into it. Now, this question actually belongs to Andrew. Andrew got it in last week at the tail end of the show. And unfortunately, on the platform I'm on, the way I do these streams is there's actually a slight delay between your comment on whatever platform you're on and it coming into where I see it on the solo platform I'm on, because all the comments from both Facebook and YouTube come directly to me, but there is a lag. So I signed off and I'm sorry about that, Andrew, but I told you we will cover it today. Now, last week we were talking about stop waiting for the perfect time. Do it now, start where you are, start messy and just start. And Andrew asked, do you think it's better to start out for someone or just having someone being in charge of the person you're doing something for? Now, Andrew, we'll see if I actually translated that right. I'm catching intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation, or internal reasoning versus external reasons, moving forward because someone thinks you should do something, right? I had a point where I was smoking for years. My wife thought I should quit, but that wasn't enough motivation for me to quit, versus moving forward because I think I should do something because I want to gift that to another person, or because I think that will improve the life of somebody I care about. I think that is the question that you were asking. If I understood that right, you give me a little nod here. So I know that I didn't totally hose that, because you could have said something entirely different and I just really blew that. I don't know. Now, if that is your question, if that's what I understood to be correct, then I have to say that intrinsic reasons will always trump extrinsic reasons. Extrinsic motivation. A lot of you know that I have some background in personal training, and aside from, and they tell us that in personal training. Okay, good. Thank you, Andrew. I'm on the right track. They tell us when you're training to be a personal trainer, I actually have studied this, that extrinsic motivation is useful to get people started sometimes, but it won't hold you through the ride. I also can personally attest to this. Like I said, I smoked for a lot of years, guys. I smoked at least a pack a day, up to 2 packs a day for on and off for between 16 and 20 years, depending on how you want to count it. I'd quit for a year here and there and then start again. But I smoked for a lot of years, and my wife always hated me smoking. Always. Like, it really upset her. She lost people who are dear to her to smoking at one point in her life. And so she just really has it's a hard thing for her to accept. And understandably, right? You want your loved ones to be healthy and taken care of and be around for a long time. And making bad choices like smoking will shorten that for sure. But it wasn't enough. No matter how much I love my wife, and Sarah and I have been married for 21 years, it was never a powerful enough reason to sustain my attempts to quit smoking. And I tried multiple times. I won't pretend. I really did. I tried so many times to quit smoking, and it was never a strong enough reason, because I kept telling myself, I'm going to quit for Sarah. And I love my wife, but it just was not a powerful enough motivator to fight something as addictive or strong in my life as smoking was. I started smoking on and off like I was 14 or 13, or I don't even remember. Bad choices, stay away from it. Bad juju, guys. If you're smoking, please do your best to get that monkey off your back, because I know personally how horrible that can be. But it took me hitting a point in my life where it became critically important to me intrinsically. My reason to quit hit a point where I needed to quit because of who I wanted to be. It wasn't until after my oldest daughter was born, and I never smoked in the house. I never smoked directly around them, but I'd be outside smoking. Now, I still have a cigar. Don't get me wrong. I still enjoy good cigars every now and then, but it wasn't until after my oldest daughter was born, I think almost after my youngest daughter was born, that I hit a point where I went, this is not who I want to be in front of my children. If I feel like I have to be away from them because it's unhealthy for them, then it's unhealthy for me too. I also don't want them to ever have to deal with this, right? My motivations changed and it became about who I wanted to be in the eyes of my children and the example I wanted, because now I was setting the example for their life. So it's always better. It's okay if you get started on something, a change for an extrinsic or an external motivation. If that's what it takes to get you off the couch or to get you to start eating right, give the junk food, whatever. But if you're going to sustain that, it has to be for you. It has to be because you want to get away from that or make that change, or it's just not going to be sustainable over the long haul. So I hope that answers the question, Andrew. And hey, look, Andrew's full of all kinds of questions. That's great. I love questions. It makes the show a lot more fun. Andrew asks, what do you think about people who actually do feel they want to essentially be a background character, i.e. someone who isn't the center of attention nor be involved with things? Now, Andrew, I understand, meaning people, do you think those people are lying to themselves about their roles in life or self-expressing? No, absolutely not. Okay. And that is a very valid question. There are people, like, I'm a loud person, right? If you guys haven't, somehow you missed that. I'm not sure how, but somehow you missed that in the makeup of all this. I tend to be an outspoken person. However, this is me in public and on camera. Okay. I grew up a minister's kid. We worked at small churches where there weren't many people to do the work, and the minister's family was expected to be very involved. And so I actually developed, it was almost, I don't want to say it was a split personality, but it became two separate parts of me. And it took a while for them to all learn to live together, because there was the expectation when I was in public of how I acted and my personality and being outgoing and being loud and being very personable and interacting with people. And it was part of my job as a preacher's kid. Now Andrew's teasing me. What my wife will tell you is I'm a homebody, and I am actually perfectly happy if I never talk to anybody. I'm okay with one-on-one conversations. I like really small groups of people. Andrew's a friend. I love sitting down with Andrew and having a cigar and laughing as our kids play and our wives have a good time. And we have a nice, easygoing conversation, and it's great. You get me much more than a group of like 2 or 3 other people, and I become so uncomfortable. So I understand that there are people who don't want to be this. And you don't have to. That's why I said you have to decide what kind of story you want to live. What do you want your story to be, right? You can still be the main character in your life. But if we go back to archetypes, right? Harry Potter is the main character in that story, in the story of Harry Potter, right? This is a really easy example. Harry Potter is the main character. Harry could not do anything without Hermione and Ron. Even more so, Harry is inept without Hermione and Ron, and without the backing support of Professor McGonagall or Dumbledore, right? McGonagall is a very nurturing, supportive character, and she's perfectly content to live her life, but live her life quietly, supporting other people, encouraging other people. There's nothing wrong with being a nurturing or supporting character, as long as you are still the hero of your story. You're living the life you want to. You're living the story you want to. You're being the person that you want to. That doesn't mean you have to live loud or flamboyantly. It means that you have to decide who you are and the role you want to play, what makes you happy, what makes you complete, what fills your purpose. And then you can pick, like I said, that archetype and be like, you know what? I'm going to be the Dumbledore, and I'm going to be the sage person, wise person who gives others the advice and the push that they need, or the McGonagall character who wants to encourage and nurture and love on and support people. You can be the Ron. Okay. Ron's underrated in Harry Potter because life is hard without a solid friend who is just content to let you excel and support you in your goals. We need those. All of us need that person in our life. So there's nothing wrong with wanting to live a quieter background character as long as that's filling your purpose and telling your story the way you envision it to be. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. You do not have to live loud and crazy. That's just not who some people are, and that's okay. I'll tell you, my wife is not a loud, flamboyant, crazy person, but without Sarah, I'm an idiot. She's the brains in the whole operation. I just stand here and flail my hands and look pretty. Ha ha ha. Ha ha, right? I just stand here and look pretty and, pretend I'm pretty smart, but Sarah's the brains of the operation. And she is content supporting me. She doesn't want to be on camera, but without her, if you've been on the show, when Sarah's not here, it runs a lot less fluidly. When Sarah's not here to engineer the podcast in the background while I'm doing interviews, I have to do a lot more editing post-production. Okay. So understand that that's perfectly fine. And if that's what is your purpose, your role, your character, and your story, and it fills that story and it fills you up and satisfies your purpose, it's fine. Please don't ever let anybody make you feel bad or small about being that character, because the world cannot take a billion Harry Potters. It's right. Harry's story is completely incomplete. The world cannot take 8 billion people who are all in the stage light all the time being the leading character, because none of those stories, right? One of my favorite shows of all time is MASH. I love watching MASH. I go back and I've probably seen the whole series 25, 30 times. I own every episode. I love watching it. My daughter's starting to watch it with me now. Hawkeye, the main character in MASH, was not funny without Ferret Face. Sorry, without Burns, the Major Burns character. Hawkeye wasn't funny without Burns to be the butt of his joke, without Radar and Klinger to be endearing and loving and kind to. He wasn't a good friend without BJ or Trapper to be a friend too. He needed their support. He fell apart when he lost Trapper in that transition between Trapper and BJ. So guys, we all have to have that supporting cast. And there are some people who can't live with that, but there are other people who just shine. And that is their great purpose, is to help somebody else stand out and stand back. One of the things we used to laugh about when I was on stage crew was we had a stage crew credo that said, something like, we are forever to walk in the shadows, those who will never see the light of the stage. Because we were happy. Like, my night was great when nobody knew I was working, when nobody had any clue I was backstage, because my actors were spot on and they were brilliant and they delivered their lines and everything went off perfectly. That was an amazing night. And I was perfectly happy to be in the shadows. I never wanted to be in the front of the stage, which is why it's ironic that I'm here. Thank you, Twisted Designer, for sharing that. I'm glad I said something halfway decent tonight. Some days that's a stretch. Sarah says, I think we each are our own main characters. The fun part is figuring out who you are meant to be in every other person's story. And that's exactly what it is be the main character in your story, but your story involves other people, whether you want it to or not. So that's a great, great idea. Just Designer says, MASH has so many of those reference personality examples. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, if you actually MASH is a great study. If you want to study character archetypes, like classical character archetypes, MASH is a really simplified, great study because you got a long set of series where you can watch them grow and develop as those character archetypes, but it has the full array. It's very cool. Guys, let's check. I don't see any more questions at the moment. Man, I love questions. I'm so glad you guys are here tonight and hanging out with me. I do appreciate it. Guys, we got a lot of exciting things. If you're not signed up for our newsletter, I don't spam you guys. You can go to my website and sign up. We send out an email. I got it on my calendar. For any of you who have been on there, you know how inconsistent I am about that. I now have it on my calendar. So it exists. It's real. And I send out emails every 2 weeks, and you get not only a tidbit specifically that goes to my email list, just some insights and some thoughts that I don't share elsewhere, but you also get updates about what we're doing with the company, what we have going on, and what's coming up. If you care to be a part of that, we'd love to have you join our mailing list. Otherwise, guys, thank you for hanging out with me tonight. I really do just thrive on Mondays. I love interacting with you guys. It makes my day so much better. It's the one nuance I don't enjoy about podcasting is I just don't get to interface with my audience very well. So thank you for taking the time and hanging out with us tonight. Guys, I don't see any more questions in the chat. So as always, be better tomorrow because of what you do today. We'll see you on the next one.